Hi guys, this is Mayank Tucker from AWS. I'm a principal solutions architect focusing on life sciences. Today I'm here to talk about building a scalable language translation solution using using AWS AI services. And this solution is specifically a human in the loop language translation solution. Along with me today, I have Watson Srivatsan, who is a senior product manager focusing on Amazon Translate, and also Patty Gaves, Enterprise Service Manager from AWS Professional Services. So let's dive in. So let's first start with the typical trends that we are seeing in the market. According to the Consumer Service Advisory or CSA, the language services and technology market will grow from $46 billion in 2018 to $65 billion in 2025, representing a compounded annual growth rate of 7%. Now that's big. And just to add on, our global community continues to become more interconnected at a very fast pace. Even though English is the largest language in the world, if you count both native and not native speakers, more than 50% of the online search queries are in languages other than English. The rise of the New World Order, fueled by growth in the Asia Pacific and African markets, is causing English to fall into decline. In fact, 80% of online buyers prefer a personalized experience, and more than half prefer content delivered in their own language. 55% of buyers prefer not to buy if they cannot read the content in their own language. This is setting the stage for an explosive growth in the need for language translation services. We can boil down the trends affecting the language translation industry to these four. The demand for language conversion services is growing rapidly, thanks to ease of achieving international reach and an increase in calls for non-English languages. There are more than 6,500 spoken languages in the world, 2,000 of which have fewer than 1,000 speakers. This makes it very difficult to find willing, skilled, and domain-aware human translators at scale. Machine translation post-editing, or MTPE, has become the top trend for 2020. There is growing evidence to support that turning to translation by a machine and then improving the result using a MTPE service is much faster and therefore much more cost-effective than translating from scratch. The current translation methods are often labor-intensive, time-consuming, and cost-prohibitive. And this actually leads us to diving into the opportunity that we have at hand. So let's try to understand what unique opportunity do we have to disrupt the language translation market. Currently, the language services market is dominated by language service providers, or LSPs for short. These LSPs employ human reviewers, which is expensive, manual, time-consuming, and inconsistent. Now, some LSPs do use AI solutions, but these AI solutions are often fragmented, expensive, and LSPs lock in the translation memory, making innovation difficult and expensive for customers. The privacy, time to process, and compliance, these are additional concerns for regulated industries like life sciences, legal, financial, etc. And these pose major barriers to adoption. And finally, domain adaptive translation services is proving to be a much more cost-effective and efficient solution for companies who are looking for investigating machine translation as a part of their localization strategies. To address these challenges in a true customer-obsessed fashion, we have created a human-in-the-loop solution, which is built on serverless, native AWS AI services. Let's dive in. The human-in-the-loop machine translation solution is a serverless pay-as-you-go solution built on the following AWS components: Amazon Translate, which is a neural machine translation service that delivers fast, high quality, affordable, and customizable language translation. Amazon Augmented AI, or A2I, is a machine learning service which makes it very easy to build the workflows required for human reviews of any machine learning output. AWS Lambda, a serverless event-driven compute service that lets you run code without provisioning or managing any servers. And finally, Amazon S3, which is an object storage service that offers industry-leading scalability, data availability, security, and performance. Today, we'll be diving deep into Amazon Translate and Amazon Augmented AI, or A2I. And for that, I would love to have our product manager, Watson, to talk about these two services.
Thanks, Mayank. My name is Watson G. Srivatsan, and I'm the product manager for Amazon Translate. Amazon Translate is a neural machine translation service that delivers fast, high quality, affordable, and customizable language translation. Neural machine translation is a form of language translation automation that uses deep learning methods to deliver accurate, contextual, fluent translation. What we mean by fluent here is the words of the translated output sound as if it is written by a native speaker. By accuracy, the sentiment, the material that is being translated is correct. And contextual means that the word choices that are used in translating uh, depend on the context in which the word shows up. For example, a word like backup can mean a help or a support, like as in a police backup, or as in an extra copy of data for computer files. Amazon Translate allows you to customize your translation using active custom translation without needing to build a custom translation model. You don't need any special expertise. And it is this feature that we are going to double down in this presentation, and we will go in depth and in detail. And finally, Amazon Translate is secure and it is easy to use. You can get started easily using our multiple SDKs, CLIs, and consoles. In a recent third-party evaluation done by Intento, Amazon Translate was ranked as #1 machine translation service provider. Not only that, Amazon Translate's ability to customize the output enables you to take greater control over the translation quality and build the machine translation output to suit your needs. Amazon Translate offers a variety of features that make localization more efficient in a very global organization. Amazon Translate offers a broad language support. Today, we support 71 languages, 4,970 different language translation combination, and we are growing. Amazon Translate has ultra low latency. Amazon's Alexa uses Amazon Translate to translate question and answers if the question is asked in a language in which the answer is not available. Data security is important. The data, you have complete ownership of your data. You have ability to encrypt your data. Any material that goes online is encrypted in motion and in storage, and you can have better control over who accesses the service and who accesses the data with Amazon Translate. Amazon Translate is available in 17 different AWS regions, which means if you have data residency issue, you have better control over where your translation happens. As I mentioned before, Amazon Translate is customizable. There are two ways to customize here. One is customization of named entity. For example, my name is Watson, G. Srivatsan, and I want to have better control over how that name gets translated or written in other languages. And I can use custom terminology to have that control. The other one is the active custom translation, where you have a better handle over the tone, the style, and the word choices that you use in the machine translated output. The Amazon Translate is available in two modes: a synchronous mode, where the translation is returned in multiple milliseconds, or it is done in a batch mode, where you get to translate a large archive with just one API call. Amazon Translate is trained on broad domains. That today we are currently trained on 11 domains, and it's growing. And the icing on the cake with Amazon Translate is you only pay for what you translate. There is no licensing charge, training charge, onboarding charge. If you translate, you pay by the number of characters you translate. If you don't translate, you don't pay anything. Last November 2020, we introduced Amazon Translate's Active Custom Translation. Active Custom Translation is a type of machine translation customization that gives you greater control over the word choice, style, and the tone of the machine translated output. If you want to translate, say, como estás from Spanish to English, you can choose whether you want the English output to be how are you or how do you do. And you do that by providing parallel data. Parallel data are translation examples that generally are high quality translation examples of that are translated in your domain correctly. And Amazon Translate during runtime goes through those translation examples and provides customized translation output. This parallel data, these translation examples can be your intellectual property. With Amazon Translate, you get to build your intellectual property. That way, two people who are using Amazon Translate can have two different translated output purely dependent on the type of parallel data that they use to enhance that translation output. The next service we would like to talk about is Amazon Augmented AI. It's Amazon A2I. Amazon A2I gives you the flexibility to incorporate human review into machine learning applications based on your specific requirements. You can easily send some or all predictions to humans to review and take actions. This helps with regular evaluation of your machine learning model and keeps it performing well. For highly regulated industries where compliance is required or important, you can also route any output or predictions to a human for review. Amazon A2I helps with reducing time to market by providing rich, pre-built workflows and UIs, and we are continuing to improve and innovate in this space. Amazon A2I provides multiple human workforce options for reviewing, allowing you to choose from private, crowdsourced, and third-party vendor workforces. I'll touch more on this in the next slide. Amazon A2I is completely API driven and can easily be integrated with your custom MLs with no machine learning experience required. Finally, A2I frees up your human team and allows them to focus more on valuable tasks by taking on the undifferentiated heavy lifting. Amazon A2I supports multiple choices for human reviewers. You can use your private team of reviewers for in-house review jobs, especially when handling sensitive data that needs to stay within your organization. If you want to scale up to a larger number of reviewers and your data doesn't contain confidential or personal data, you have access to an on demand 24/7 workforce of over 500,000 independent contractors worldwide through Amazon Mechanical Turk. Mechanical Turk is a crowdsourcing marketplace that connects your review jobs with a distributed workforce who can perform these tasks virtually. Alternatively, you can use third party workforce vendors through AWS Marketplace. These vendors are pre screened by AWS to provide high quality review and follow security processes. AWS Marketplace provides all the relevant details, including pricing and customer reviews, to help you select the best vendor for your needs. In this schematic, we show how Amazon A2I works. And for this, we will talk about Amazon Translate as the AWS AI service shown in point 2. When you have a material to translate, the client sends in input data. For example, let's say in here, the input data is como estás. Amazon Translate will translate como estás to how are you. If the domain in which the translation is done is a, a domain that doesn't require high scrutiny, or the domain is assumed to have very high quality machine translation, you go through step number 3, where the how are you is submitted to the client application for further processing. If this requires human scrutiny because you want to maintain higher standards, or if there is regulatory requirements, you can send them through step 4, where you can enable Amazon A2I to have a person review the translated output, how are you? This person can make updates to how are you and change it to how do you do if they choose to, and they get to update the machine translated output. And at step 6, you get to build this IP. The results, how do you do, is stored in Amazon S3, and it is fed back into Amazon Translate for the next time. So very next time when Como estás shows up as the input, Amazon Translate learns and translates it as how do you do. And then the output is sent to the client application. Now I will hand this over back to Mayank. Hi, Mayank.
Thanks, Watson. So now that we understand the core services in the solution, let's dive into building the solution. I do want to start with showing you what we call as the flywheel. Um, this is basically a schematic trying to show you how we plan to build the solution. So starting from step 1 on the left, we will leverage Amazon Translate to produce the first translations. Now, this definitely helps customers save times and cost to go back and have that first translation ready, which can be used for post edits. Second step, we try to go back and push out some of these outputs, or maybe all of them, depending upon your requirements, to human teams for review. Now, many customers require this step for controlling quality or improving standards or even meeting compliance objectives. Step number 3, we leverage Amazon Augmented AI to capture post edits, which will serve as translation memory. Now, keep in mind, as I mentioned before, the translation memory belongs to the customer. So you can start building your own IP and maintain consistency in the future outputs as time goes along. Periodically, you can start pushing all these translation memories to Amazon Translate and leverage the ACT feature, or ACT, Active Custom Translation feature, to improve the translations. Now, this definitely helps you improve the translations as time goes by, and over time, you could be possibly reducing human intervention and creating better outputs over time. The whole cycle repeats, and the model improves, giving you better TCO and giving you more consistency at a lower cost. So if I pick up that concept and put it in a process flow, it would look something like this. Starting on the bottom left, let's say the users who are interacting with existing business systems want to go back and leverage this solution. They interact with the business system, which could be hooked up to the solution, and the files could be submitted for translation. The first step that the solution will do is to decompose this incoming document into sentences. The reason we do that is if we try to go back and translate the entire page and capture post edits at that level, it is too coarse grained. And if we try to go back and capture the post edits at the word or phrase level, it is too fine grained. And we found that breaking down into sentences is much more desirable output producing solution. Once we have the sentences, we pass them through a machine translation solution. In this case, it could be Amazon Translate, and translate each sentence in the batch mode. Once we have those translated sentences, we present them to a human team to capture the post edits and capture any changes that they might have. This captured edits, aka translation memory, can be periodically be fed back to a machine translation solution to go back and improve its output over time. And this loop keeps on improving as we go along. Once the human team is satisfied with the output, we pass on to the next phase, which is trying to reconstruct the output document uh, using the post edit captured and the translations provided by machine translation. We make sure that we also preserve formatting, which is very important from a visual cognizance perspective, so that customers who are working with Word documents or Excel sheets and PowerPoints and so on, they get the same formatting on the way out. Once we have done that, we pick up the record and pass it back to the business system, which requested the whole workflow. So let's see how this process flow would look like using AWS components. So the incoming files could be sitting on an Amazon S3 bucket, which is our raw storage. We use S3 notifications and invoke a Lambda function, which picks up the incoming document, breaks it into sentences, and passes into Amazon Translate. Once we get the output from Amazon Translate, we pick up those documents as well and call the Start Human Loop API on Amazon A2I service. The Start Human Loop API basically creates a human review and pushes that task to a team of humans for review. The humans use an UI, which is a part of Amazon Augmented AI, or you can go back and create your custom UI if you wanted to, and capture those post edits and preserve the translation memory into another S3 bucket. From that point onwards, it could be a periodic update depending upon the customer's frequency that they want to use. It could be a weekly or a quarterly update back to Amazon Translate to improve the translations. Once Amazon Translate is aware of the custom translation input, it uses that custom translation for the next prediction that's going to create and hence improve the output. Once the post edits are captured properly, we use another Lambda function for document reconstruction and providing the final output on a third S3 bucket. All these operations are monitored and by Amazon CloudWatch, and we use the metrics available in Amazon CloudWatch to keep an eye on the solution. If we look at the solution features, you might have noticed that this is a completely serverless pay-as-you-go solution. We leverage Amazon Translate, which gives us access to more than 4,900 language pairs to provide high quality translation. The system is event driven or batch driven, and it can be easily be plugged in onto existing systems, hence giving you a way to go back and leverage your existing investment. We provide support for Word documents, PowerPoints, Excel sheets, HTML documents, and plain text documents with format preservation. We use Amazon Augmented AI and all the features that Amazon AI Augmented AI brings to the table to securely drive human reviews and capture translation memory. And finally, we use Amazon Translate active custom translation feature to go back and capture the, the translation memory thus generated and evolve the translation model as, as time goes along. How much does it cost to go back and translate a page? That's right, 19 cents. And this cost has been calculated assuming 3,000 characters per document and also includes 1 terabyte of S3 storage and the associated AWS Lambda costs. So now since we have seen the solution, let's jump into some use cases where this is applicable. There are 3 high-level use cases that we see being addressed with this solution. These 3 main pillars, when addressed, makes any organization become truly and fully global. The first one is content localization, or as we refer to it, one-to-many. This is what makes the face of the organization global, localizing core assets such as retail products, descriptions, and customer reviews, media libraries like stock photos, academic research, and news articles for global publishing. The second one is multilingual communications, or many-to-many. Employees, customers, and for consumers, uh, everyone prefers to go back and communicate in their own language. And enabling that reduces friction, increases collaboration and retention, and of course, delights customers. And finally, text or media analytics, or many to one. Organizations today collect and analyze enormous amounts of data, and sometimes it's for sharing or for driving applications like a personalized news feed or a legal slash financial slash e-discovery applications. The truly and fully global organization localizes billions of words per month across every channel. And today we will look into it, how they do it. Talking about localization, it's very difficult for human translation teams to keep up with dynamic or real-time content. With Amazon Translate, you can easily translate massive volumes of user-generated content in real time. Websites and applications can automatically make content such as feed stories, profile descriptions, and comments available in a user's preferred language with the click of a translate button. Amazon Translate can provide automatic translation to enable cross-lingual communications between users for your applications. By adding real-time translation to chat, email, help desk, and ticketing applications, an English-speaking agent or employee can communicate with customers across multiple languages. With Amazon Translate, you are not tied down by language barriers. Understand the social sentiment of your brand, product, or service while monitoring online conversations in different languages are just some of the use cases we can actually bring to fruition. Simply translate the text to English before using a natural language processing application like Amazon Comprehend, which can be used to analyze textual content in a multitude of languages. Incoming text analyzed by NLP solutions is sourced in foreign languages and basically converted to English for downstream processing. In a global world, documents are in various languages. Customers use Amazon Translate to translate documents from various languages to the language of interest. In US, it could be English. In other geographies, it could be something else. Delivery began working with AWS and specialty partner Voice Foundry in Jan of 2021 to evaluate Amazon Translate and then to deploy an integrated solution that uses Amazon Connect and Amazon Translate to implement scalable live agent chat with built-in automatic two-way translation between many languages. They were able to go back and increase their first call resolution to 83% and reduce the average call handling time for the customers by 20%. Another example I can bring up is from Causality Link. Causality Link, unique use of Amazon Translate and blend of machine learning, a specialized ontology, and traditional artificial intelligence allows them to provide their customers with an NLP-powered tool that guides investment decisions with news and information on an international scale. They are able to process more than 500 million characters in 24 languages each month to go back and fuel their NLP-powered tool that guides investment decisions with news. And this information comes from multiple sources in different languages from around the world. Using Amazon Translate, they were able to go back and have a high quality, high capacity translation solution and enable them to go back and focus on their work on the best possible interpretation of English. I would love to have Patty, our enterprise service manager, talk more about how professional services is helping our customers in this regard as well. Patty?
Thanks, Mayank. So my name is Patty Gaves from Professional Services, and I'm excited to share with you an example of how we're working with a customer to implement the human-in-the-loop translation solution that Mayank and Watson have shared with you today. So this customer, a large life sciences organization, processes more than 500,000 what we call adverse events forms worldwide every year. And adverse events reported to the manufacturer whenever a person taking one of their products experiences an unexpected symptom that may be related to the product. The customer is under strict regulatory requirements that require timely review of these reports. As the events are reported in the native languages for the countries where they occurred, these events must be translated into English for manufacturer review. As Mike mentioned earlier, historically, this has been mostly manual and outsourced to third parties using costly human translators, resulting in delays and inconsistency. For this engagement, we worked with the customer to design a solution to help them accelerate the overall translation process. This is going from days or weeks down to days or hours, depending on the volume of the document. Reduce potential errors that are that happen when we have humans doing this manually, and improve the domain-specific language translations and decrease the human review time overall. So you can see here that there are challenges that this customer is facing, and we're really, our goal here is to automate the initial translation, just like you saw in the flywheel that Mayank shared, and the human verification workflows to accelerate document availability and regulatory reporting. So there are two specific challenges over and above the flywheel and the description of the solution that we shared previously. One is we're talking about complex PDF documents and being able to preserve that formatting. And also this is a regulated workload, and there are some included, some increasing auditing requirements that we're working with here. But as you can see on the slide, in the US, this life science customer has 15 days to report most events. Everything is time sensitive. Availability of these translated documents is necessary to perform regulatory reviews. And manual document translations are time consuming and costly. And we estimated for this customer upwards of $10 million annually to translate more than 500,000 events. And that's about, I think, 3.5 billion characters per year. And the results are inconsistent across because of the fragmented manual effort happening. So the solution should match very much with the flywheel that you saw earlier. We use Amazon Translate to perform the initial translations. We route the translated output to a skilled reviewer using Amazon E2I. We capture and apply feedback from the human reviewer post-edits to continuously improve improve the quality and accuracy of those translations over time using the ACT feature that we've discussed. And on top of that, we've developed a rich user experience to manage and perform document translations efficiently. So that's what I'm going to show you today. Is I'm going to really focus on the interface that we've built in order to process these translations. So the results for this customer, we've centralized document translations, reduced delays, and added visibility across workloads and work teams. They're using actually private work teams to start. We talked about the various work teams for A2I. There are plans or discussions to use vendor work teams potentially down the road. We automated the translations and workflows to reduce the human dependencies and errors, and we've streamlined the interface to review and edit those translated documents, maintaining high regulatory rigor and audit history for this workload, and retaining those edits to evolve a domain-specific learning model. So let me just show you what this looks like. We dove in with the customer. We did a lot of traditional AWS workshops and working backwards to come up with a user interface that would work for them. They really wanted a side-by-side experience where the source and translated documents could be reviewed with formatting preserved side next to one another. And what you can see here are a couple of things. So you can see this is an A2I task. We're making a case ID and we're making this searchable so that you can always go back to the document that you're looking for. You can see we're looking at page 1 of 3 and able to navigate pages with some preset zoom capabilities here. These documents are synchronized. They're in sync in the user interface such that a user can page through in either language really, but effectively the source document and then making sure the translated document reads coherently. They're able to select an either pane and edit with the corresponding entry or text block using the editor that you see here. And you see some yellow highlighting that's indicating changes that have been made to the document. When something's in context, it's actually a blue box. We do have a secondary workflow set up here. So the initial reviewer is making some changes. They're going to save those changes and they're going to request a secondary reviewer here. You can see what's changed. You can see some highlighting to indicate that. And also note that the audit information is included here, who uploaded the document and when, the preset zooms, as I mentioned earlier. The secondary review is a special requirement that we've implemented here. And you can't see it on this screen, but you will see it on the next screen. There's a submit button at the bottom when you're finished with the document. So you can see here we've added a public document to the same interface. We're looking. This is for a test of a longer document. This one is 39 pages. And so you can see that the user has a page view. It was very important for this customer really to be able to navigate page by page and then click into the items that they wanted to edit versus going line by line and reviewing each translation that occurred. And so we really wanted that reading experience to feel good for the user. And so they're simply paging through reading, stopping where there's an edit to make, and then resuming their review of the document. So this is a lot less complex formatting-wise in this document. It doesn't have all of the native PDF functionalities to render here, but you can see that it's a very similar side-by-side editorial experience. You can still see all of the controls and as well as the submit button that was missing from the last page. So with that, we will move on to next steps. I hope you've enjoyed our Tech Talk today. I'd like to review with you how we can help if you're interested in learning more. So there are a couple ways we can help you get started if you're interested in learning more about building a solution like you've seen today. The first is to contact your account team or your AWS Solutions Architect to learn more about what you're doing there. And AWS Professional Services can also help work backwards, understand what it is you're trying to build, and help establish a POC or a custom solution depending on your use case. If you want to get started on your own, there are resources available to help you do that. The first is a blog here that Mike actually authored. It's Designing Human Review Workflows with Amazon Translate and Amazon Augmented AI. You can see that here, as well as some sample code that's available for you to use there on your own. So this concludes our presentation today. We thank you for joining us and hope you enjoyed it. We have some time now for questions and answers, and we'll go ahead and open up to that now.